The Galactic Council chamber was built for species who measured time in centuries. Its tiers curled around a hollow sphere of light, each seat shaped for a different anatomy, each translation node humming with restraint. Ambassador Myra Hale stood at the human dais, hands locked behind her back to keep them still. Most species read movement as threat. Humans were inconveniently expressive. Across the chamber, High Overlord Krathuan of the Zaltheri Dominion reclined in his cradle throne as if the council existed to entertain him. His ceremonial armor, black plates threaded with silver glyphs, caught the spherelight like a blade. The speaker archivist, an ancient Lyran whose voice arrived in the mind like cooled metal, called the session to order. We convene regarding Dominion encroachment into the neutral world zone. The Dominion is reminded of Council Statute 9. Statute 9 was simple: no war in neutral space. It kept trade clean and old empires comfortable. Krathuan clicked his mandibles. The translator rendered it as laughter. Encroachment is a timid word, he said. We reclaim what weakness abandoned. Hale kept her gaze level. Neutral worlds are neutral. A few delegates shifted, uncertain whether the human's tone was humor or insolence. Krathuan's smile widened. Your kind arrived yesterday, he said. You build, you breed, you fling yourselves into vacuum and call it courage. Do not mistake noise for strength. The speaker archivist lifted a limb for silence. The Council has issued guidance to the Dominion before. Humanity's doctrine is not predictable. The warning stands. Krathuan leaned forward. Warnings are what the frightened speak when they cannot enforce law. A small icon blinked on Hale's console. Priority packet, encrypted Terran cipher. Her pulse spiked, then steadied. She did not open it yet. Optics mattered here, even when lives did not. The speaker archivist continued, Dominion vessels have been recorded within 3 light hours of New Carthage Station. This is an inhabited human holding. Krathuan's gaze sharpened. A holding, he repeated. So temporary. Hale spoke without letting the translator soften her. If you cross that line, Overlord, you will start something you can't stop. The chamber filled with murmurs, some scandalized, some curious. Krathuan laughed again. You believe you are the storm, he said. You are a spark that dies in rain. Hale's console pulsed red. Emergency override. Somewhere, someone had decided etiquette no longer deserved oxygen. She tapped the packet. An image unfolded in the light sphere, New Carthage's orbital ring, once a bright necklace around a blue-green world, now fractured into burning arcs. The feed stuttered. HAB modules vented atmosphere. Debris scattered like ash. Then audio, alarms, broken language, a child calling for a mother who wasn't answering. The chamber was suddenly too small for the silence that landed in it. Hale's throat went dry. Speaker, she said, this transmission is live. The speaker archivist's mental tone sharpened. Identify the aggressor. The feed answered. Zaltheri sigils blazed on sleek warships knifing through cloud and fire. A dreadnought spinal cannon charged, an azure line gathering, then it lanced, and part of the ring simply ceased to exist. Krathuan rose, slow and deliberate. A demonstration, he said. Your colonies are pests nesting near our corridors. We prune. Several delegates recoiled. A Selenite envoy hissed, this is a violation. Violation. Krathuan cut in. Law is the language of those with time to debate. I act. Hale stared at the destruction, then at the Overlord. The rage that came was cold and focused. Grief would arrive later. You were warned, she said. Krathuan's eyes glittered. By whom? By you. No, Hale replied. By the Council. By history. By every species that survived the first time humans were cornered. The speaker archivist projected careful sorrow. Dominion forces are to withdraw immediately. The Council will. Will what? Hale asked, still calm. Issue a statement. Convene another session. Send condolences in 12 languages. Around the tiers, frills and antennae betrayed discomfort. They hated mirrors. Krathuan spread his arms. Listen to her. She believes words matter. This is why humanity will fail. Hale touched her comm stud. Admiral Rourke, she said, confirm New Carthage status. A pause, half a heartbeat, an eternity. Then Elias Rourke's voice came through, low and controlled, carrying the weight of a casualty report. Confirmed, he said. Ring integrity compromised. Station population estimate was 3.2 million. Current life sign returns, under 40% and falling. Hale closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, the chamber felt different, as if gravity had shifted toward consequence. Rourke added, Dominion boarding craft have deployed. They're taking survivors. Crawthorne tilted his head, curious, like a scientist observing a specimen. They count their dead, he said. Adorable. Hale leaned toward the microphone. Overlord Crawthorne, you will release those civilians. Crawthorne's smile showed too many teeth. No. Hale looked to the speaker archivist. This is your moment. Enforce your statutes. The reply arrived with practiced helplessness. The Council will deliberate appropriate measures. The last thread of patience snapped, not into chaos, but into clarity. Hale faced the chamber, then turned back to Crawthorne. Then I'm done waiting, she said. Rourke's voice, still on the open channel, asked softly, authorization. Hale swallowed once. Proceed with Ash Fall, she said. No broadcast restrictions. Full spectrum. Across the tiers, delegates stiffened at the unfamiliar word. Crawthorne's amusement flickered, the first crack in his certainty. What is Ash Fall? He demanded. Hale met his eyes without blinking. It's what happens when you mistake restraint for weakness. The feed from New Carthage shuddered as another beam cut the sky. Hale didn't look away. She watched, memorized, and let the image brand itself into the part of her that would never again believe in gentle warnings. On a distant command deck, Rourke watched the same feed with his jaw set and his hand steady on the rail. Orders flowed like blood through a body. Carriers waking, rails priming, stealth tenders slipping from dock. No speeches. No banners. Just checklists, confirmations, and the quiet click of safety toggles. In the dark between stars, humanity's answer began to move. The first human response didn't look like vengeance. From the Dominion's border watchers, it looked like hesitation. New Carthage burned for 6 hours before the Zalveri withdrew their main guns. Their boarding parties stayed, harvesting survivors with the precision of a farmer collecting grain. The Overlord's doctrine was simple. Break the body, steal what remains. Admiral Elias Rourke watched the live feed from the Terran flagship Argent Dawn without speaking. Around him, the command deck ran in a restrained storm, officers calling vectors, confirming signatures, checking weapon locks. No one asked him how he felt. That question belonged to old wars. Commander Soto, tactical chief, stepped to his side. Ashfall task groups are in position, she said. Stealth tenders crossed the margin 2 hours ago. Drone nets are seeded. Rourke didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on the image of Dominion Marines dragging a line of human civilians across a shattered docking arm. The Marines moved with ceremonial arrogance, pausing to raise banners in the vacuum as if the galaxy cared about their theater. Any sign they've detected us? Rourke asked. None, Soto said. Their sensors are scanning for capital mass. We're giving them absence. Rourke finally turned. Good. Make sure absence stays believable. On the far side of the command deck, Lieutenant Merris Kellen adjusted a holomap, young enough that the grey at his temples was the first sign of responsibility. Sir, Kellen said, Council traffic is spiking. They're issuing condemnations and urging restraint. Restraint, Rourke repeated. The word tasted like rust. Soto read his expression. We're not ignoring them, she said carefully. We're just not asking them. Rourke nodded once. Open channel to Ambassador Hale. A hologram shimmered above the deck. Myra Hale appeared in compressed light, posture rigid, eyes too bright. Somewhere behind her, the soft hum of the council chamber bled through. Admiral, she said. Ambassador, he replied. I'm moving. Her jaw tightened. They're taking people off station. I can't get the council to authorize interdiction. I don't need authorization, Rourke said. I need time. Hale exhaled, controlled, then leaned closer. How much? Rourke glanced at the tactical overlay. 4 hours until Phase 1 completes. 6 until Phase 2. Then we take our people back. And if they execute hostages? Hale asked, voice low. Rourke's eyes didn't soften. Then we remove the hands that pulled the trigger. Permanently. Hale held his gaze, searching for cruelty and finding none. That frightened her more than rage would have. Do what you came here to do, she said. The hologram collapsed. Rourke turned back to his crew. Begin. Phase 1 was not a battle. It was a rearrangement of reality. Across the border, human stealth tenders, ships no larger than cargo haulers, slipped into Dominion lanes with their signatures smeared into background radiation. They released thousands of microdrones, each the size of a coin, each programmed to do one simple thing: listen. Not for words. For patterns. Dominion vessels spoke in tight beam pulses, ritual-coded and proud. Their transmissions were encrypted, but humans didn't need the content. They needed timing, repetition, the cadence of command. Within an hour, the drones had mapped the Dominion's local network like veins under skin. Kellen watched the data bloom. They're routing convoy updates through 3 relays, he said. Same rotation every 30 minutes. Soto smiled without warmth. Predictable is a gift. Rourke tapped the console. Mask our entry vectors under their own housekeeping traffic. Use their relay pings as our cover. Aye, sir, Soto said. Ghost Ride protocol engaged. Deep in Dominion space, a Zalveri logistics officer named Vrax stared at his station panel, mandibles twitching in irritation. His convoy schedule had shifted by 3 minutes without his command. He checked the relay integrity, green. He checked the time, correct. He checked the priority seals, authentic. He hissed to his assistant. The relay is behaving like a drunk hatchling. Perhaps solar interference, the assistant offered. Vrax slammed a claw on the panel. There is no solar interference in a stabilized lane. He opened a channel to Border Command, requesting confirmation of convoy timing. The response arrived late. Not enough to trip alarms, just enough to irritate. Timing is as issued, the superior snapped. Stop cluttering channels. Vrax's frill twitched. He complied, but our knees crawled under his scales. Systems didn't misbehave. People did. He did not know the relay was no longer his. On Argent Dawn, Phase 2 began with a quiet phrase. Nets closed, Soto reported. We're inside their comm shadow. Rourke nodded. Cut the artery. Human microdrones shifted role. Listening became whispering. 1 relay ping became 2. 2 became 3. Tiny additions, perfectly spaced, invisible to a mind expecting loud intrusion. The Dominion network began to lag. Convoys received updates half a beat late. Patrol craft drifted a fraction off course. Fuel calculations adjusted by decimals. None of it was catastrophic. It was worse. Confusion spread like a slow poison. Officers argued with instruments. Instruments contradicted officers. Pride forced them to assume incompetence rather than attack. Kellen watched Dominion chatter patterns change. More bursts, sharper intervals. They're blaming each other, he said. Soto's fingers danced. Now we make them blind. The first human strike was not against a warship. It was against a depot. A Dominion refueling hub, unarmed, essential, hung in the dark like a fat tick on a trade lane. Human rail skimmers, slender ships with engines tuned for brief, brutal acceleration, slid into range behind a curtain of sensor noise the drones had sown. Rourke watched the targeting feed. No casualties, he ordered. Cripple it. Soto raised an eyebrow. They won't do the same for us. We're not them, Rourke said. Not today. The rail skimmers fired. Tungsten flechettes, dense, silent, punched through the depot's thermal conduits. The hub didn't explode. It simply stopped functioning. Coolant vented in glittering arcs. Heat bled out. Docked ships drifted, powerless, their systems throttling down to avoid melt. A Dominion patrol group arrived 8 minutes later, weapons hot, expecting attackers. They found an intact station and a disaster that looked like negligence. Vrax, watching the incoming reports, felt his gut twist. They didn't destroy it, he murmured. His assistant blinked. Then what did they want? Vrax stared at the coolant trails like pale ribbons. Control. On New Carthage remains, Dominion boarding parties began loading prisoners onto transports. The lead ship, a troop carrier named Glory of Scales, powered up for departure, then its engines coughed, lights flickering. A human drone, clinging to its hull, whispered into the ship's diagnostic bus. The carrier didn't fail outright. It hesitated. It stalled. It requested maintenance it did not need. The Zaltheri commander on board screamed at engineers. "Fix it. We leave now." The engineers tore panels open, found nothing, ran tests, found contradictions, ran more tests. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The prisoners sat in restraint harnesses, watching Dominion soldiers grow tense. And in the cold distance, beyond the edge of sensor range, a human recovery corvette coasted with its profile folded into darkness. Rourke leaned forward as the corvette's feed came online. "Confirm prisoners aboard." "Confirmed," the corvette captain said. 247 civilians. Dominion escort minimal. Rourke's voice became steel. "Proceed to retrieval. No theatrics. Fast and clean." The captain hesitated. "Sir, they're not expecting an attack." "That's the point," Rourke said. "We're not giving them a fight. We're taking what's ours." On the corvette, a human boarding team checked seals, maglocked rifles, and silence tabs. One of them, a medic with a shaved head and tired eyes, looked at the squad leader. "Are we killing them?" she asked. The leader shook his head. "Only if they force us." She swallowed. "They forced this." He met her gaze. "Then we end it our way." The corvette surged. Not like a predator lunging, but like a scalpel drawn from a sheath. In Dominion space, alarms finally began to ring, late, confused, overlapping. Vrax watched the network stutter and realized, too late, that the Empire's pride had been used against it. He opened a private channel, voice trembling with something he'd never admitted before. "Overlord," he said, "we are not being attacked." A pause, then Krathuan's voice, impatient. "Explain." Vrax stared at the cascading errors. "We are being handled." On Argent Dawn, Rourke watched the boarding feed as his team slipped into the troop carrier's shadow, cutter lights blooming like cold stars. He spoke once, quietly, to no one in particular. "They wanted humans to beg," he said. "We're going to teach them something else." And in the dark, a Dominion dreadnought's tracking systems began to register a mass that wasn't there, just long enough for something real to pass unseen. Fear reached the Zaltheri Dominion quietly. Not as panic, not as screams on open channels, but as hesitation in places that had never known doubt. Convoys delayed departure without clear cause. Patrols doubled back, convinced they had missed something. Commanders slept less, checking displays that insisted everything was normal. Nothing was. High Overlord Krathuan stood in the war sanctum above the capital world of Zalthera Prime, talons resting on the edge of the tactical basin. Holographic lanes glowed before him, trade routes, military corridors, fortified systems. They were intact. His fleets were vast. His doctrine was proven. Yet reports kept arriving that did not fit together. "Speak," he commanded. Strategist Kelvar bowed, frill tight with unease. "We have lost 3 troop carriers," he said. "No distress calls. No wreckage. Crews and prisoners, gone. Destroyed." Krathuan asked. Kelvar hesitated. "No evidence of weapons discharge. Their last signals indicate system confusion." Then silence. Krathuan's mandibles clicked once, sharply. "Incompetence." "Perhaps," Kelvar said, choosing his words with care. But our depots are failing in sequence. Not exploding. Failing. Our ships arrive fueled and leave, stranded. The basin shifted as Krathuan gestured. Show me the human fleets. They are not massing, Kelvar replied. Our sensors register nothing beyond their borders. No invasion pattern. Krathuan leaned closer to the light. Then why do my borders feel thin? Elsewhere, far from the Sanctum's controlled air, Admiral Elias Rourke stood on the observation deck of the human forward command ship Quiet Resolve. The stars outside were steady, indifferent. Inside, his fleet moved like a patient animal, muscles coiling without sound. Commander Soto joined him, hands clasped behind her back. Phase 3 is ready, she said. Recovery operations completed. We pulled 812 civilians out of Dominion space. Rourke nodded. Casualties? Minimal, she said. 2 wounded. No fatalities. A corner of his tension eased. Not relief, focus sharpening. Good. Send the transports home under ghost escort. She hesitated. The Council is demanding to know why we're operating so deep. They're concerned. Rourke's mouth curved in something close to a smile. They're late. Soto studied him. Sir, we're about to cross a line. Rourke met her gaze. We crossed it the moment New Carthage burned. Now we decide where it ends. On Zalthara Prime, alarms chimed, soft, controlled, insistent. Krathuan turned as the basin reconfigured. Report, he snapped. Sensor Adept Threx raised a trembling claw. Anomalous contacts at the outer perimeter. Multiple signatures. They fade when we focus on them. Decoys, Krathuan said. Flush them. We attempted, Threx replied. Our targeting solutions collapse. Guidance loops contradict each other. Krathuan's frill flared. Then fire manually. The basin flickered. A perimeter defense platform launched a spread of plasma lances into empty dark. They burned bright, then dissipated, having struck nothing. Silence followed. Then a new icon bloomed, not at the edge of the system, but inside it. Krathuan froze. That is impossible. Threx's voice shook. They are not arriving, Overlord. They are revealing. Above Zalthara Prime's nightside, space folded like a held breath released. Human ships emerged not in a charge, not in formation meant to intimidate, but in a precise lattice around key infrastructure nodes. Communications relays. Orbital yards. Defense command arrays. They did not fire. They broadcast. The signal cut across Dominion channels, clean and unjammed. A human voice filled command centers, translated instantly. This is Admiral Elias Rourke of the United Terran Defense Coalition, it said. Calm. Even. We are not here to destroy your world. Krathuan snarled. Lies. Rourke's voice continued, indifferent to the reaction. We are here to demonstrate control. On cue, the basin showed a shipyard status flip from green to amber. Dock clamps disengaged. Power grids throttled down. Defense platforms slewed off target, their command links quietly rerouted. Kelvar stared. They're inside our systems. Impossible, Krathuan roared. We would know. Rourke seemed to answer him directly. You would, if you were looking for us. You were looking for fleets. The human ships remained still, engines dim, profiles folded into the dark. They were close enough now that visual feeds showed hull markings, plain, functional, unadorned. No banners. No declarations of glory. Just tools. Restore control. Krathuan barked. Threx's claws danced over his console. We cannot. Every override routes back to the same dead end. Rourke's voice softened, just slightly. Your systems are excellent. Stable. Efficient. Built for wars that look like yours. Krathuan's eyes narrowed. And yours? Our wars assume failure, Rourke replied. So we design around it. A new feed cut in, Dominion Dreadnought Spear of Dawn, pride of the inner fleets. Its reactors spiked, then leveled, then throttled to idle without command. The ship drifted, massive and helpless. The bridge crew inside shouted orders that went nowhere. Krathuan's breath hitched, just once. "You dare." "We dare nothing," Rourke said. "We act." Soto's voice came through Rourke's private channel. "Sir, council traffic is exploding. They want mediation. Ceasefire talks." Rourke didn't break eye contact with the stars. Not yet. On Zalthara Prime, the reality of the situation seeped into the chamber. No bombardment. No invasion drop. No blood in the streets. Just a world held in an invisible grip. Krathuan turned to the basin, forcing his voice steady. "What do you want, human?" The pause that followed was deliberate. "We want our people back," Rourke said. "All of them. Alive. Returned unharmed." Krathuan's mandibles twitched. "And if we refuse?" Rourke's answer came without heat. "Then this demonstration becomes a lesson." The basin shifted again. A remote system, one of the Dominion's forward military worlds, blinked from green to grey. Its defences shut down in sequence. Its fleet went dark. Kelvar whispered, "They could dismantle us without firing." Fear finally found its voice. Krathuan straightened, pride warring with survival. "You would unmake an empire over a single colony." Rourke's reply carried the weight of every human history lesson written in blood. "No," he said. "We would remake the rules so this never happens again." On the quiet resolve, Kellen leaned toward Soto, voice low. "They're stalling." Soto nodded. "They're learning." Rourke closed the channel and turned to his officers. "Maintain positions," he said. "No escalation unless provoked." He looked back at the stars, at the human ships hanging like quiet verdicts over an alien homeworld. Predators learned fear not when they were wounded, but when they realized the hunt was no longer theirs. And across the Dominion, that realization was spreading faster than any fleet could stop. Zalthara Prime had never known silence like this. The capital world still glowed beneath its orbital lattice, oceans turning slowly under the distant star, cities alive with light. Nothing burned. Nothing screamed. Yet every system that mattered waited for permission it no longer possessed. High Overlord Krathuan stood alone in the war sanctum. His strategists had been dismissed, not out of confidence but necessity. Pride demanded privacy when it bent. Before him, the tactical basin displayed a single image: the human fleet, suspended around his world with surgical precision. Not surrounding it in a ring of fire. Not pressing inward. Holding. A chime sounded. Soft. Neutral. An open channel request. Krathuan straightened his armor. "Accept." Admiral Elias Rourke appeared above the basin, rendered in pale blue light. He wore no ceremonial markings, no medals. Just a simple uniform, collar unadorned, posture exact. "Overlord," Rourke said. "This conversation will be recorded." Krathuan's mandibles flexed. "For threats. For surrender demands." "For history," Rourke replied. "Your choice which kind." Krathuan stepped closer to the projection. "You believe you have one because you stand unopposed in my skies." Rourke shook his head once. "No. I believe the fighting stopped because you realized continuing would cost you everything you think defines victory." A long pause followed. Krathuan's gaze flicked to the basin. Dormant fleets, muted relays, obedient silence. His empire's strength had always been visible, loud, unmistakable. What the humans wielded was absence where certainty should have been. "You did not destroy my cities," Krathuan said. "You did not slaughter my civilians." That restraint suggests negotiation. "It suggests intent," Rourke said. "Destruction is easy. Control takes discipline." Krathuan let out a low hiss. "Then state your terms." Rourke lifted a finger. The basin changed. Images unfolded, Dominion transport manifests, prisoner registries, biometric confirmations. Human civilians, frightened, injured, alive, held in holding pens across multiple systems. "First," Rourke said, "you release every human taken during your incursion. Immediately. We will verify identities and conditions. Krathuan's eyes narrowed. And if some have perished? Then you will tell us where, Rourke replied. And we will recover them. The Overlord stiffened. Dead bodies. People, Rourke corrected. Our people. Another image replaced the first. Dominion fleet schematics, weapon stockpiles, forward base coordinates. Second, Rourke continued, you will withdraw all military assets from the neutral world zone. Permanently. Those lanes are no longer negotiable. They are strategic corridors, Krathuan snapped. You cannot dictate. Rourke raised his hand. The basin flickered. A Dominion command array powered down another fraction, its status slipping from amber toward red. I can, Rourke said quietly. And I am. Krathuan's frill trembled. You seek humiliation. No, Rourke said. We seek safety. Yours, included. The Overlord laughed bitterly. You cage us gently and call it mercy. Rourke's expression did not change. Mercy is what you receive because we are choosing not to mirror you. Krathuan's talons dug into the basin's edge. For the first time since his rise, the future did not bend to his will. What is the third term? He asked. Rourke's gaze sharpened, not with anger, but with resolve forged long before this moment. You will sign a binding accord recognizing humanity as a protected sovereign power under Council law. Any future aggression against human holdings will be treated as a collective security breach. Krathuan recoiled. You would place yourselves under the Council's shield. No, Rourke said. We are placing the Council under obligation. Silence stretched. Beyond the sanctum walls, Zalthara Prime continued its ordinary rotation, unaware its fate balanced on a sentence. Krathuan straightened slowly. And if I refuse all of this? Rourke met his gaze without flinching. Then we disengage. Hope flickered, brief, dangerous. And before we leave, Rourke added, we will dismantle every system we touched. Not violently. Thoroughly. You will rebuild from frameworks you no longer fully understand. The hope died. Krathuan's voice dropped. You would cripple us. Rourke nodded once. So you remember the cost of misjudgment. The Overlord looked away, toward the basin, toward the quiet immobilization of his empire. He saw it then, not defeat, but a different ending to the same war. Survival without dominance. Continuation without conquest. What guarantees do I have, Krathuan asked, that you will not return once we are weakened? Rourke answered without pause. Because we don't need to. The words landed heavier than any threat. Minutes passed. Then Krathuan bowed his head, a fraction, but enough. Transmit the accord. On quiet resolve, Commander Soto exhaled as the confirmation codes began to flow. They're releasing the prisoners, she said. All locations. Council observers are scrambling to keep up. Lieutenant Kellen watched feeds light up with human recovery teams escorting civilians onto transports. Some cried. Some stared in disbelief. All walked free. Rourke closed his eyes for a moment longer than necessary. Signal the fleet, he said. Begin phased withdrawal once releases are verified. Leave the network keys behind. Soto blinked. Sir. Let them regain control, Rourke said. Fear fades. Memory doesn't. Above Zalthara Prime, human ships powered down one by one, their presence thinning like mist at sunrise. Systems returned, cautiously, as if expecting another trap. In the war sanctum, Krathuan watched the last human silhouette vanish. You could have taken everything, he said to the empty basin. Rourke's voice returned one final time, unbroadcast, private. We took what mattered. The channel closed. Days later, the Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The chamber buzzed with agitation, translation nodes straining to keep pace. Ambassador Myra Hale stood again at the human dais, expression unreadable. The Zalthari Dominion has signed the accord, the speaker archivist announced. Humanity's sovereignty is recognized. Neutral space protections are reaffirmed. A delegate hissed, this sets a dangerous precedent. Hale inclined her head. So did ignoring your warnings. The speaker archivist paused. Humanity's methods were unconventional. Hale's eyes were steady. So is surviving. On Earth, on Mars, on colonies still rebuilding from loss, news spread, not of triumph, but of return. Ships arrived carrying people who should have been statistics. Names crossed off lists meant to be permanent. Admiral Rourke stood alone in his quarters, watching a silent starfield. His console chimed softly. A message from New Carthage's Provisional Council. We're alive. Thank you. Rourke let out a breath he'd been holding since the first transmission burned across the council chamber. Humanity had not conquered an empire. They had done something far more enduring. They had taught the galaxy that warnings were not threats, and that ignoring them had consequences measured not in destruction, but in control. And somewhere, in the quiet recalibration of power, the stars took note.